VikesNow, I am Dustin Baker, and we are back. Alas, I was on vacation for the past week or so, visiting my wife's side of the family in Denver. But we're back with Vikings football. We have OTAs kind of winding down. We are 6 days away from mandatory minicamp when all the dudes show up, including Josh Metellus, who curiously didn't appear to be at the OTA sessions or hasn't been. And we got to start thinking about the summer because Vikings training camp is what 7.5 weeks away, 8 weeks away. Team has a roster that is in glorious shape. Everything kind of depends on JJ McCarthy, whether or not he plays decently. If he plays decently, this purple team can probably make the postseason. If he plays like a unprepared rookie, it'll be a long, bumpy ride. But I don't think that will happen. But let's start talking about some major storylines for the Vikings. I think I've got 6 of them here, counting down to number 1. Probably already spilled the beans on that one. But yeah, Vikings storylines, the 2025 team that is expected to win 8.5 games. Kind of the standard. Actually, it's a little bit higher. I think last year was 6.5 with Sam Darnold. Vegas talked its way up to 7.5, and then eventually they won 14 games. Jason McIntyre on FS1 on Colin Cowherd's show called the Vikings a team of destiny this week and said the team, they're going to the NFC Championship in his estimation. He loves J.J. McCarthy, so we'll take that. We haven't been called a team of destiny maybe ever, but the last time that was probably in play was 2010 after the Vikings lost to the Saints in 2009. Folks were still high on that team. That ultimately crumbled. So on this list of 6 storylines, at the bottom of my list, working our way up to number 1, is does Ty Felton seem to be an immediate contributor? Now, I did not think the Vikings would draft a wide receiver in round 3, 5-6 weeks ago. But I'm just like the rest of yous. Anytime the Vikings draft a wide receiver, I'm like, ooh, this guy's going to be good. The Vikings don't have too many swings and misses at wide receiver, notably Troy Williamson and Laquan Treadwell. They usually get wide receiver right, which means when they call a rookie, we're like, all right, is this guy going to be any good? But the reason Ty Felton is fascinating is, aside from being fast and pretty much having all the tools that you would expect from a third rounder, Jalen Nailor enters a contract year, and he hasn't been extended yet. And if you're going to pick a guy like Felton in round 3, that's an indicator that guy is going to play. Now, if Felton was in round 5, 6, or 7, I wouldn't even have him on this list, and I really wouldn't care about him in general because after about round 4, the draft gets to become a total lottery system. Most of the guys don't work out. But in round 3, that's a different story. So the Vikings selected this guy with a purpose, which means if there was no such thing as Jalen Nailor on this depth chart, Ty Felton should play pretty damn soon. He's not a long shot like, hey, maybe he'll develop and be the WR4. No. When you pick a wide receiver from round 3, that guy should be inserted into the lineup as a WR3 like really fast. And I'm talking as early as week 1. Jalen Nailor probably won't allow that, but I want to see how Felton does this summer to figure out, A, the breadcrumbs on Nailor's future, and then B, do we have another sweet wide receiver? Is this going to be Jefferson, Addison, and Felton, which would be pretty fantastic. So we'll find out at training camp and then certainly in the preseason. Is this guy, Ty Felton from Maryland, is he going to be a dude that gets immediate targets? I'm talking against the Bears on Monday Night Football, September 8th. Number 5, if there's anything that gives Vikings fans a little anxiety right now, it's probably the cornerback room, CB. And here's my question. Is the cornerback room complete? That is the number 5 storyline. According to me, right now it is Byron Murphy Jr., Isaiah Rodgers, Mekhi Blackman, Jeff Okudah, Dwight McLaughlin, and Ambry Thomas, who started a bunch of games for the 49ers during their Super Bowl push to 20 and 23, but nobody really cares about him because he was hurt all of last year. I wonder if the CB room is complete. If it is not, there are a couple options in free agency, more than usual at this time, which include Jack Jones, who was released by the Raiders a couple months ago. The Vikings used a top 30 visit on him in leading up to the 2022 draft, and when the Patriots cut him mid-season 2023, they put a waiver claim on Jack Jones. Now, the reason I don't know if he'll ultimately sign in Minnesota is because they probably would have done it by now. There's also Mike Hilton, who is a fantastic veteran, and if the Vikings realize they want like last summer, a presence like Stephon Gilmore or Shaq Griffin, Mike Hilton is the guy that you would sign right now or into July if he's still on the open market. He'd fit wonderfully in Brian Flores' defense. He loves to blitz as a cornerback. Flores is the most blitz-heavy man probably in human history. But Mike Hilton is a dude to watch. And then there's also Asante Samuel. That Score North-driven rumor kicked up, a couple weeks before the draft. And then it felt like, hey, maybe that thing is real. And ultimately, nobody has signed Asante Samuel because it sounds like he had a surgery in April, and NFL teams will get clarity on his medicals in July. So in theory, perhaps the rumors were right all along, and the Vikings could sign Asante Samuel. There's also Rasul Douglas, who some people like, but I don't think he's very good. And then who knows what happens on Jair Alexander. He was hurt last year, but then every time it seemed that he was questionable in the injury report, getting close to coming back, it felt like a no-brainer that the Packers weren't going to play him. So something is rotten there between Alexander and the Packers. A kumbaya could still be possible. But if that guy is released, although he's public enemy number one among Vikings fans, the Vikings could sign him, and bada bing, you would have Byron Murphy Jr. and Jair Alexander as your top two earners and meal tickets in the cornerback room. Those are the options if it's not complete. So I'm just curious. It's like the only reason I bring this up or have it at number 5 on a list of storylines or burning questions is it's the only spot whatsoever on the roster where you'd be like, ooh, that needs a little help. There is also Jalen Ramsey rumors, and the only reason that those are worthwhile in terms of realism is Kevin O'Connell and Jalen Ramsey won a Super Bowl together with the 2021 Rams. They should know each other, and therefore Ramsey, who is certifiably on the trade block, you start looking at old coaches he played for, his past ties, and hey, the Vikings are one of them because of Kevin O'Connell. And I'll tell you this right now. If the Vikings shipped a third rounder or whatever it would take to the Dolphins to get 30-year-old Jalen Ramsey, who has not diminished, he would headline the cornerback room. He's still that damn good. And then this roster would be absolutely stacked. No excuses. The only thing we'd ask or wonder about is whether or not J.J. McCarthy is going to be good right away. That is how impactful Jalen Ramsey would be if the Vikings could swing the trade. But like every trade theory at this time on the NFL calendar, it's kind of unlikely that the Vikings end up with him. Number 4 is, will Kwesi Adofo-Mensah fire off any trades? You just heard the Ramsey speech, why it makes sense. There's also some other ones that I like. I don't know if they're incredibly realistic. Kyle Pitts is in the trade rumor mill now. And to me, this would just be superb. I know that the Vikings don't need a tight end because they have TJ Hockenson and Josh Oliver and a couple, rookies that we hope pan out. But Kyle Pitts is in the final year of his contract, and if you traded for him right now, you could extend him for a modest amount. He had his one really good season as a rookie, like 1,000 and change yards. But after that, as you know, if you play fantasy football, he hasn't been very good. But you start to wonder, with the quarterback whisperer, could Kevin O'Connell in this offense make Kyle Pitts cook? And then he'd hedge the bet against any TJ Hockenson injury. There's also the matter of Josh Oliver's contract expiring this season, like Jalen Naylor. And if you traded a 4th or 5th rounder to Atlanta for Kyle Pitts, you would hedge the bet from all angles. If TJ Hockenson got hurt, you would just promote Kyle Pitts to TE1. And then if Josh Oliver left next offseason, you'd already have Pitts in the mix to be the TE2 and damn near even TE1 because TJ Hawkinson's guaranteed money runs out, I think, after this season. That same tight end argument can be applied to Michael Mayer, who's being utterly wasted away on the Raiders roster because Las Vegas was smart and drafted Brock Bowers. In 2023, they used a 2nd rounder on Michael Mayer. In 2024, they used a 1st rounder on Brock Bowers. The Raiders don't need Michael Mayer. And so the Vikings could probably send a 5th rounder to Las Vegas for Mayer. And in the same argument I just made about Oliver's contract expiring after this season, boom, you would have on your depth chart Michael Mayer and TJ Hockenson, which sounds pretty fantastic. And then I'll come back to the cornerback spot in addition to the Jalen Ramsey trade rumors. Tariq Woolen, whatever you want to call him. He's a big physical corner on the Seahawks roster. They haven't extended him yet. He's due for an extension going in the final year of his contract. Seahawks already have Devin Witherspoon and Josh Jobe. They've been auditioning Shaq Griffin and Rasul Douglas, and something seems like they don't want Woolen back. They even benched him last year for a game in December, and he was pretty pissed about it. So because Brian Flores always seems to have one big physical, muscular cornerback tall on his roster, I think that Woolen could be obtained for maybe one of those deals where the Vikings send a third rounder to the Seahawks for Woolen and a fifth rounder. And then just like the argument with Ramsey, who, Woolen's not quite that good, you'd have Tariq Woolen and Byron Murphy headlining your cornerback room. Every summer since Kwesi Adofo-Mensah arrived, there has been a trade or two. In 2022, it was Ross Blacklock, Jalen Reagor, and let's see, there was an offensive lineman, Jesse Davis, was shipped to the Steelers, and then ultimately they traded for Nick Mullins when they realized Kellen Mond sucked. That was 2022. 2023, let's see, what did they get in 2023? Oh, they shipped Vidarian Lowe to the New England Patriots for a sixth rounder, I believe. So kind of a quiet summer then. And last year it was Nashawn Wright for Andrew Booth. Trade that didn't really work for either team. But there's always one, so I'm curious as to what that would be for these Vikings. Number 3 on the storyline list after Ty Felton's projection to be an immediate contributor, wondering if the cornerback room is complete, wondering if Kwesi's going to send off any more trades, is who will be the other starting cornerback. Let's assume for the sake of this little segment on the show that there is no Jack Jones, Mike Hilton, Asante Samuel, Jalen Ramsey, Reek Woolen coming through that door. Well, who the hell is it going to be that's going to start on the outside of Flores' defense at the Bears Monday Night Football Week 1? I think the betting money suggests it'll be Isaiah Rodgers. Interestingly, Rodgers was the very first free agent that the Vikings signed on the day of legal tampering. Remember the day when Twitter was down, the worst possible time, and we had to go to Blue Sky to figure out our news? Isaiah Rodgers was their first cornerback, first free agent signing in general, and he's the guy that Kevin O'Connell spoke about a month and a half ago, that Brian Flores had a tone in his voice when he was talking about Isaiah Rodgers, not unlike the tone he had about Zach Bond last year, who turned out to be a total stud and Pro Bowler, maybe even All-Pro. We'll have to look that up. So if Flores pounded the table for Isaiah Rodgers, it's probably him. But the only thing I wonder out loud is Rodgers has never been a full-time bona fide starter. And if you are going to be a Super Bowl contending team like these Vikings profess to be, you usually have Byron Murphy and then another stud and then guys like Isaiah Rodgers or Jeff Okudah. But it seems these Vikings are content with Isaiah Rodgers. There's also Mekhi Blackmon, who we don't have to have a big mysterious summer about, hey, is he healthy? He's already back. He's already at OTAs doing the thing. He's a contender for CB2. Then there's also Jeff Okudah. I don't think he's going to bust out and become a big deal finally for the Vikings, but there are some who keep up that Irv Smith hope, like this is the year. And then let's see, Dwight McGlothern, Yannick Eckhart, who's on this show every now and then, loves Dwight McGlothern. So that must be noted. But overall, we know Byron Murphy. He's paid handsomely. He's the CB1. After that, there is a little ambiguity about the cornerback spot. Number 2, winding down the show. Will Christian Darrisaw be ready for Week 1, or we got to wait until later into September? If you do the math on his ACL tear, when it happened, late October, I was there. That was the face mask game where the refs missed it on Sam Darnold. By a normal contemporary recovery ACL timeline, Darrisaw should be back by Week 1, probably sometime in late August. But we know beyond the shadow of a doubt that this brand of Vikings loves or can't resist the temptation to slow roll injury recoveries out of the abundance of caution. TJ Hawkinson might have been ready before Week 7 or Week 8 last year, but they just took it easy. If they were willing to do that with TJ Hawkinson, they're probably going to do it with Darrisaw. And if Darrisaw, with this new sweet-ass offensive line, isn't ready, you have to wonder, is Justin School going to be the guy who starts at left tackle Week 1? I guess if that has to be the arrangement, so be it. But it would be really fantastic if Darrisaw's injury recovery went as well as Mekhi Blackmon's, as well as J.J. McCarthy's meniscus, and that by the time we get to the second preseason game or something like that, it's a foregone conclusion and understanding that Christian Darrisaw is back and ready for Week 1. Now, if I had to bet, I'm going to guess that he won't be ready until Week 3, Week 4. That's just the way the Vikings do things. I think the biggest clue will be whether or not he hits the PUP list sometime in August or whatever it is. But it's a major storyline because you saw how the Vikings' offensive line tumbled when Darrisaw left. What's his name? Cam Robinson did a good job at times, but he's no Darrisaw. So we need to know the Vikings' second best player behind Justin Jefferson is Christian Darrisaw. When will that guy be back? And then finally, the top storyline, it's not any big surprise, is J.J. McCarthy ready for the big time? I've got a couple theories here. I have a personal mindset. I talk with Yannick Eckhart, one of my close friends and colleagues, coworkers. He and I operate under the pretense that we know J.J. McCarthy is going to be at least decent. He's going to be good. I don't have these first-round fears about, hey, is this the next Ponder? Like, is this guy going to be a bust? I'm fully aware that half of all first-round picks do not live up to their potential. But I don't even consider McCarthy as remotely sniffing that category. And I'll tell you why. Do you really think that the quarterback-whispering head coach, Kevin O'Connell, who has squeezed the best out of Josh Dobb for 2 or 3 weeks, who has made Nick Mullins a guy who can throw for 400 yards, who empowered Sam Darnold to a 14-3 record. And by the way, Kevin O'Connell had 3 off seasons to figure out his quarterback one plan of the future. Do we really think that the one guy in the NFL renowned for quarterback whispering is going to flop with the guy that will define his head coaching legacy? I do not think that's going to happen. It would fall into the most Vikings thing ever category. And if this were the Mike Zimmer era, I would be right there with the skeptics. That's, oh God. Hopefully this quarterback from round 1 is any good. But I trust the reputation that Kevin O'Connell has accrued and the results that he's produced on the field with various quarterbacks who had no business winning 14 games after being called a bust for the last 5 seasons. I don't think O'Connell, with his one big chance to scout, find, cultivate, develop a quarterback, is going to swing and miss on J.J. McCarthy. And then I will say this. Let's say McCarthy profiles as, maybe in that Derek Carr category where he's pretty good, not great, but he's pretty good some of the time, going to let you down others. Even if he was mid or slightly more decent than mid, this defense had ranked second in the NFL last year. McCarthy has playmakers in Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, TJ Hawkinson, Jalen Naylor, Ty Felton, an offensive line that all of a sudden is the best on paper we've seen since the 2000s. So the defense, the offensive line, the trenches, the playmakers, the quarterback whispering head coach. If this doesn't work for McCarthy to be at least like the 12th best quarterback in the NFL within the next couple years, no solution will work for the Vikings. They have scripted this son of a bitch so wonderfully. The defense, offensive line, playmakers, the head coach, they hired the one head coach who's known for cultivating quarterbacks. If McCarthy turns out to be Ponder-esque, it will be mind-boggling because what else could you have done differently? Therefore, to me, it's not a matter of, well, let's hope McCarthy is good. I know he's going to be good. It's just a matter of whether or not he climbs into a tier with Dak Prescott as like the 10th best quarterback in the league, or if we get really lucky, strike gold, hit the lottery, and he's up there with Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. I'll never say anybody's going to be in Mahomes' category because those guys only come around, it feels like, once a generation. But I think McCarthy can reasonably be in that top 8, top 6 category, and that is the top storyline. Is McCarthy ready for this big job? Because the Vikings, he's waltzing into a team that has opened a Super Bowl window, which is pretty unique for a 22-year-old passer. All right, that's all I got. You guys have a wonderful next couple days. Skol, baby.